In this video I wanted to take a look at the American M9 gas mask and look at the possibilities of what could have been if the Americans continued to adapt and enhance this mask rather than going to the train wreck mask of the M17. So when the M9 came into service in about 1949-1950, it was really a mask ahead of its time. It's lightweight, the rubber's rather flexible, it's comfortable, and it took 60mm filters, so it meant that you could put a filter on the side of the mask and then, you know, when you needed to change it, just unscrew it and rescrew it on. That's a concept we're all very familiar now with masks, but really it was masks like the M9, the British light anti-gas respirator, that really sort of, you know, took the principle of having a lightweight, easy to change filter that went onto the side of the mask. I believe the Americans before this had a mask called the M8, which had its 60mm filter port at the bottom, similar to the Draeger M65 and things like that. But the M9 is the one, when I've looked at pictures, that looks like it's got, you know, the most sense to it. I believe there might have been also another mask before the M9 that took 60mm filters. It might be called the M5. But again, apparently it didn't have, you know, an inner mask with an anti-fogging system, so it wasn't as good as the M9, even if it had a lot of the concepts. But the M9 brought it all together. Despite the nose looking comically big on this mask, it's not actually really all that big inside. And that has the Tissot system running under each eye there, and then inside you've got your oral-nasal cup, which takes up quite a bit of room. So although the nose looks comical from the outside, it's not actually that big. But as I was saying, what the M9 did, which was great, was you could easily change the filters, because it had just little 60mm filters like this. You know, if you compare that to the size of a modern 40mm filter, it's not much bigger, to be all honest. It's just the intake size is 60mm, not 40mm. Went on the side of the mask, and you could easily change the filter in the field, no messing about, and the masks were comfortable. So what actually ended up happening is America made the disastrous decision to not continue with the M9, but instead move to the M17, which we all know why it's a bad mask. Unless you want to delude yourself, it has cheek filters that can only be changed when the mask's not on, and they're not easy to change. The problem with cheek filters being that once the mask is on, once you're in a contaminated environment, if your filters run out, you're dead. And what does not help the fact is that the filters will be continuously expiring after you've put them in the mask. And from everything I've read, lots of American soldiers who were issued M17s might have put new filters in the mask when they first got the mask. Then if they were in service for 2 or 3 years, they didn't replace the filters in all that time. So if after 2 years of service you had a gas attack, your mask's going to be useless. So the interesting thing is a few other countries took the M9 design and they, you know, used it themselves. So what we're going to look at first is the Finnish M61, which is probably my favourite of the M9 variants. Again, it's an even softer rubber than the American M9, more comfortable. A better head harness. It's not got the weird strap at the bottom to do it up, it's got a better head harness system. It's got more metal on it to keep pieces in place rather than tape. It's got a shorter exhale valve. This is the V2 version. They did do a V1, which is closer to the American M9. One of the important changes, I think, for this mask, which I will demonstrate to you now, if I can fold this around. This mask has a kind of rubber seal here that the M9 doesn't have, that runs around the exterior of the mask, and that simply creates a much better airtight seal against the wearer's face, because this system, basically, means that the mask basically closes in on your face better and creates a much better seal, which is always good in the gas mask. It's not going to leak. So you've got the Finnish M61 V3 with that nice system there, nice supple rubber, very comfortable. As I said, the M9 is better than a lot of the previous masks of World War II. Now you've got the Finnish M61 V3, apologies, this one's a bit dusty, it sits on my wall. But this one has a metal voice diaphragm here. So you've got the same mask, but they fixed a plastic housing to where the normal exhale valve would be, and you've now got an exhale valve at the bottom and a voice diaphragm there. So what this means is you've now got an M61 where people can hear you speak clearly. Very easy to do modification that Finland did. So again, another step up from the American design, but again made by a country that had nowhere near the amount of budget to spend on masks that America did, and still came up with something better. Now to look at something really interesting. What we have here is the Serbian M2 or Yugoslavian M2 gas mask. And I've already shown you the other day the Yugoslav M1 respirator. Again, it's another M9 copy, there's not much really to say about it. But here we have this. So when Yugoslavia or Serbia modernised the M1 to the M2, they said, why can't we just shrink this down, make it 40mm not 60mm, and improve it that way. So what you have here is basically the M9 lowered in size and weight again, and it now takes 40mm filters. You also notice the nose isn't as ridiculously big, and while it does have an oral nasal cup, let me just flip this around so you can see it. You've still got the oral nasal cup in there, you've got one of those nice chin things to let the sweat out, and it's a fully functioning M9, apart from the fact that this mask now has this system here. Now, the only way you could improve this again is to add a bigger lip like the Finnish one did around here, so it makes a better airtight seal. But it's an M9 that's been modernised to take 40mm filters. So let me just demonstrate this mask. Again, I've done videos where I've tested this and I found, unfortunately, this particular size one isn't a great seal with my face, but regardless, the mask itself is very competent, because somebody's basically gone, let's get that really good American mask and modernise it. So there you have it. It's got this hard plastic exhale valve there rather than the rubber one. I've got a good field of view. You can see the oral nasal cup there stopping it steaming up. And yeah, it's comfortable, lightweight, and it does its job. So this is the funny thing, that Serbia of all places could basically make an M9 copy that was modernised and really good all on their own, and yet America decided it would be better to go with the M17. So this is where we have this weird, thing going on, where America designs this really good mask, and then within 10 years decides they don't want it anymore and they want an awful mask. And then all the countries that had nowhere near as much military spending that bought M9 style design masks each improved on it and made something far better. So the Serbs making a 40mm scaled down version, the Finns making one with a voice diaphragm and other minor improvements. And then I think you had Sweden also had a copy, Iraq had a copy. Lots of other countries did, maybe not all of them, improved on the M9. But it's a weird concept to think of personally for me, that you can basically have a mask that American designs, and again it's going to be corruption from the military-industrial corporation, military-industrial complex. The actual, America can design a mask and then not fully utilise it and instead downgrade to something that the normal M9 is better than in every way, and some of these other copies are much better than. So yeah, it's just weird to think that in the 1960s maybe America could have developed something like this, add a voice diaphragm to that, you have a near perfect gas mask, but America didn't do that.